All right, I got another patron request here, this time for a Neil Jordan vampire film. Actually, both. I don't know if he made any other ones besides this one and Byzantium? Is that how you say that? Which I will be reviewing next. So we got a double header here. I have not watched that one yet, though. So that probably won't happen for like a week because I got a lot of stuff coming up here in the next few days. But regardless, Interview with a Vampire, obviously a very, very beloved classic film starring every sexy man of that time. Kind of crazy what you got going on in here with Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, Antonio Banderas, Christian Slater was another guy that girls were all crazy about. Although I feel like at this time he'd kind of maybe like, well, was he still kind of hot shit back in, what is this, 95? 95, 94? Probably not. He was pretty big in the 80s. Maybe he was starting to peter out around this time. But regardless, it doesn't really matter. But Brad Pitt was at the height of his sex appeal and celebrity. And yeah, I hadn't seen this movie since it came out. So this is basically a first time watch, the way that feels when you haven't seen something in so long you barely remember anything about it. I talk about the Kirsten Dunst stuff, the Claudia stuff, quite a bit on the channel because I just think that's the most interesting aspect of this film. The kid who can never grow old, who's like a woman inside but is trapped in a child's body. I think that's fascinating. But I had not remembered this film much because the vampire subgenre is like in my bottoms of horror subgenres, right? Like you have exorcism films and vampire films. Those are the two that I'm usually not huge on, exceptions, of course, as there always is. And I always remember when this came out, and for many years after, how much discussion there was about the homoeroticism in the film. And, not having remembered the film all that well, I basically just thought that we were calling it homoerotic because you had good looking men who were like, these vampires who are these very sexual, sensual creatures. And Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise's characters, Lestat and Louis, they like get really close and whatever. And I remember that to some degree. And I really thought, like, oh, they're just reading it that way. And we're just calling it homoerotic because that, people are just that way. And they see two men getting too close to one another and whatever. So, like, that's how I kind of have always thought about this movie in my head, is that people were just calling it that. Oh, no. No, 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 no. This movie is extremely homoerotic. Without question. I mean, to me, there is no denial that Lestat and Louis are like they're into it, or at least Lestat is into Louis, and they're like a couple. They raise a child together, like they are a gay couple with a kid, and my cat, she already ran away. Um, is yeah. Anyway, um, so yeah, you have not only that relationship happening here, but then later in the movie, Louis meets Armand, played by Antonio Banderas, and he 100% wants him as his lover, as his partner, as his mate. No one, they don't kiss. There's never anything sexual going on in the movie, but it is undeniably homoerotic to me. It's undeniably homosexual in nature. I don't know how else to look at this. They do like seduce women, and they're bringing women into their you know rooms and into their lives, but it's just to drink from them. It's just to double team them, right? They just like want to have three ways with women, and yeah, I don't know. I guess I just didn't expect that. I don't care. I think it's fine. It makes sense. It's they're gay vampires. Like, what do I give a fuck? But I just honestly thought that the homoerotic kind of thoughts towards this movie over the years was just without merit, but incorrect. Very, very, very gay movie, which is fine. Anyway, okay, let's talk about the film. So, of course, this is based on the Anne Rice books. I have not read a single one of these. I know nothing about this world, the Vampire Chronicles or whatever. I've not seen that television series. I saw Queen of the Damned when it came out. I think I saw it in theaters. And I remember that Lestat is like a rock star in that. And he like awakens Aaliyah, Queen of the Damned. She's like some vampire that he brings back from the dead by playing music or something. And then I remember Aaliyah dying like very, very shortly after that movie came out. That's all I remember from that movie. And then there's that TV series that's, I think, still currently going. And I know they tried to get sequels to this made, and Anne Rice also wanted to make the Vampire Lestat, even like said, like, I'll write the screenplay and whatever, and the studios rejected it, which is kind of crazy to me because this was so popular. This is still a very classic film. It was wildly successful, and you would think that Anne Rice wanting to come in, which she also wrote this screenplay, if I remember correctly, her wanting to bring another one, especially if you had Neil Jordan returning, or if you had another like similar director, bigger name director, why wouldn't you do this? This just seems like kind of a no-brainer, and especially if you can get like Tom Cruise and them to reprise their roles, then you're just printing money. So it is odd to me that this didn't get a sequel, and that we got this kind of weird Queen of the Damned film that feels nothing like this movie and was rejected by Anne Rice, and I'm assuming the fans as well, because I don't remember Queen of the Damned perfectly, but I know it doesn't feel like this fucking movie. And if this is more accurate to the books, and Queen of the Damned is what it is, of course you're going to upset fans. Like, it's fine to try something different, and if I watch it and I like it, then fine, so be it. But it just seems like such a weird choice. And I can only assume the interview with the Vampire Show, which shouldn't it be called the Vampire Chronicles if that's what this series is called? Because are they only adapting that book, or are they adapting all the books? But then again, Game of Thrones, right? Like, Game of Thrones is just the name of the first book, and that's what they called the show. So it's not without precedence. Anyway, so you've got Christian Slater's character here. He meets Louis, and Louis is like gonna feed on him, I think, and then decides that he's gonna tell him his story because he like figures out that he is a journalist, reporter, writer, or something. So he brings him up there, and I don't know that the way that plays out. What did I write down here? He was like, yeah, he accepts his invitation. Christian Slater's character accepts his invitation to be interviewed, to sit down with him, but he doesn't know anything about him. I guess he just allures him up there, and maybe he's gay for him. Maybe he thinks something's going to happen between them. I didn't get that read from him at all. But it was odd to me because I was like, wait, why is he here? Why is he like sitting down to interview this guy when he doesn't even know what he is? Because I would expect he catches him killing somebody, and then he goes to talk to him, and he's like, get away from me, and he's like, no, hold on, like, I've always believed in you guys, and I want to interview you, and then that, like, you know, piques his curiosity, like, interview me, right? Like, that would make way more sense to me. But the fact that they like see each other like in an alley or something, is that what they said? and then he just decides to come up and interview some random guy he met in an alley. Like, but for what reason? Like, what interest does this guy have to you? Like, I don't understand what brings them together. I'm sure this is talked about in the book. I'm sure this makes way more sense in the book, but in the movie, I was very confused on why they would just get together to sit down for him to interview the guy. That doesn't make any sense to me. So, weird moment. Okay, fine. If the book says it, why isn't it in the movie? He's just drawn to him, right? Like, Lestat says something around, like about their power. Like each one of them has kind of a unique power. Lestat seems to be able to like read people's minds and control them to some degree. So Louise maybe is an influence of sorts, whatever. So yeah, he sits down. We're in the 1700s. We find out he's supposed to be 24 years old. I don't know how old Brad Pitt is in this movie. If this is 95-ish, which is 30 years ago, and he's in his 50s, then I guess he probably is in his 20s here. He looks older than he's 20-something, but he probably is, huh? Okay. So yeah, he's supposed to be 24 years old. He's a plantation owner. His wife and their, I think, unborn child die. She gets sick, I think, and dies. And so he is just, he's done with it. He doesn't want to live anymore. He's going around. He's like, trying to get killed by anybody who will kill him. Lestat comes across him in this, like, poker game, I want to say. Although the poker cards have, I know that old school poker cards are like, cards, playing cards. They don't have numbers on them. Like, I've noticed that. But they usually have like this, like the amount of suits. So he just had like 5 aces. Is that what that was? Because they all just had single suits. It's just one single. It's like a diamond and then whatever. It was just like, I thought there was 4 or 5 cards. Was there 5? Because yeah. Anyway, there's not 5 aces in a deck. But who knows with these cards? I have no idea how many cards or what game they're even playing. So I just saw it and was like, those are some odd cards. They're very papery, but that's probably more realistic for the time. They were probably being more accurate. So, yeah, I mean, so he goes outside. He's searching for death. And what does he find? He technically finds death, but he also finds eternal life. And he's given the decision, after looking for death for so long, to have eternal life, which is kind of an odd flip in the moment, because he's like sitting there, he's hooking up with this prostitute, then he comes in and I think he kills her, and then he attacks Louis, and then he's like, do you want this? And he's like, yeah, sure. Like, I don't know how he goes from not wanting to live at all to, yeah, let me live forever. But maybe he doesn't say exactly what it was, but pretty sure that's what, is implied here. So, I don't know. Okay, sure. And then he is told after, like, oh, we got to kill people to live. Which, this, like a lot of vampire movies, I feel like vampire movies are very similar in the sense that they're probably, anytime your main character is turned into a vampire, I should say, Lost Boys, whatever, they don't want to feed. They always reject the notion, I'm not going to be a creature of the night, I'm not going to be a monster, I'm not going to kill people, right? This is a pretty common thing. And then they're always like, you have to feed, you have to eat, eventually you will, you'll succumb to your hunger, you can't fight it off forever, you'll die if you don't drink, whatever it is. And they vary from film to film. And that's another thing another interesting thing with vampire movies is, unlike zombie movies, where zombie movies, sometimes everyone on Earth knows what a zombie is. They have intimate knowledge of how to kill them. They say the word zombie. That's rarer. And then more oftentimes than not, Nobody knows what a zombie is. Nobody's ever heard of one. Nobody knows any correlation to anything from some kind of lore. Nothing. It's like completely wholly new to them. They're like, what is this thing? Somebody's coming back from the dead and trying to eat people and has no, you know, semblance of cognition left in their brains. So vampire movies, I don't think I've ever watched a vampire movie in my entire life where people don't know what a vampire is. People are like, what is it? Or like, something has fangs and it goes to bite somebody, and then as soon as anything is shown, people come to the conclusion of vampire films and vampire movies so fast. So fucking fast. It's crazy how fast. But even if it isn't, everybody always knows what it is. That seems to always be the case in vampire movies. And then they always know the tropes. They know the garlic. They know the crucifix. They know the stake through the heart. They know the sunlight. They know the reflection in the mirrors. They know, whatever. Holy water. What have you. The coffins. It goes on and on. And in here, same thing, right? Of course. He says, I'm a vampire. And then Slater's like, this, and that. And then he's listing them off. And in every vampire movie I see, they've always got to have at least one or two things that don't line up with the common mythology that we are accustomed to. They're always like, sunlight. I sparkle in the sunlight. Right? There's always got to be that thing, that one thing in the lore. And then they're always like guffawing at the notion that we believe in the garlic thing. But then it's like, do you guys sleep in coffins? And he's like, oh yeah, of course, they're essential to us. So it's like, you've been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. He even says in the end of the movie, like, he loved going to movies. He becomes a film fanatic, and he loves going to movies to be able to see the sun. And that's a cool thing we'll talk about later. But he's very aware of what the vampire tropes are. And he even calls it out, like, oh, that's just, the ramblings of whatever. And so I find it funny that they're almost offended by this notion, and they laugh at this idea that we think this does that, and like a stake through the heart would kill them. They don't seem that hard to kill in this movie. They're fast for sure, but when Louis goes to get his revenge on the guys who kill Claudia and her new caretaker, who lasts for 10 minutes. He just sets them on fire while they're asleep in their coffins, and then when some of them break out, he just cuts their head off, or takes his big sickle and he just cuts them right in half. That's it. Like, they don't seem that complicated to kill. So it's like, they're very much egotistical in this movie of like, we cannot die. Like, a stake through the heart, that wouldn't do anything. Okay, so a shotgun blast to the head would kill you, as it would kill me, right? It's like, you're not that. But then Lestat, he drinks from the dead, which in this is, I don't know how many vampire movies do this, where they're not allowed to drink until death, right? So like, if they continue to keep drinking when the heart stops pumping, they will be poisoned, or something bad will happen. They die too. They suck the soul out and die. Whatever. I've seen this in one or two other movies in my life. I think. I don't know. I don't watch a lot of vampire movies. The ones I have watched, I'm not a huge fan of. Except for, of course, as I said, some exceptions. So I don't know how common this is, of like, you can't drink past death. Which, does that apply to collecting it? Right? So like, in most vampire movies, they'll like drain the body dry, and they'll like collect it in bottles, whatever, keep them in the fridge, have it for later. They're not going to just drink. Now, there's plenty of vampire movies as well where they drink from them, and when they're done with them, they just discard them, and they're done. They don't collect the blood. But there's tons of movies where they create blood bags and bottles of blood and whatever. Does do they have to? Would that apply here? Like if he was to keep a bottle of blood, could he drink it as long as it came from a living being? Like it had to be alive, and as soon as it died, you better cut that thing off right there and then, because if one drop of dead blood gets in, you're gone. And the difference between dead blood and not dead blood is what? Like, yeah, it starts to like coagulate after death after a while, but not instantly. So who knows? It's fantasy, but I just didn't understand the rules there very well. Um, Getting back to it, I just, as I said, I just don't think that they're that hard to kill, but they are very fast. And when Lestat gets his throat cut, and after he's tricked into drinking from the dead, after Claudia freaking poisons him with these dead twins that she gives poison to keep their bodies warm, to make him think like they're just knocked out, and then she slits his throat and he falls. His body is scary. His body looks freaky as fuck, especially when they dump him in the swamp. There's some good effects in here from Stan Winston for sure. Like when he goes on that rampage and cuts these people in half and all that. That stuff looks really good, really really cool. So we do get some really cool makeup here and some good horror scenes. The revenge tour there in the crypt was the highlight of the movie for me for sure. He's also says goodbye to the son one last time, so he kind of knows this is the last time he's ever going to see the son, and if he ever does again, he'll die. He then later gets to see it in film, which is cool, and the like progression of cinema, and like how it goes from this kind of like grainy black and white, probably very low frame rate, like not moving like the natural eye would see things, to like 90s. He's in the 90s at this point, and film of course has come a long way, and it's basically like being there, which is great for him to kind of live vicariously through these films of something he's lost and he never thought he'd see again. And I've never seen that before. I've actually never seen that explored before, where these vampires go to movies to like watch a sunrise. That's really sad. But they're monsters, so who gives a shit? But he is tricked into it, as is, it's like Lestat. He's all angry and bitter because he wasn't given the choice, and he thinks he's better because he's giving people the choice. I was pretty surprised at how little Tom Cruise is in this movie. Lestat, he's in it for the first like 40 minutes or so, and then they kill him off, and he basically just disappears for 99% of the rest of the film. So this is 100% like a Brad Pitt centric vessel. Like I thought that they were a team throughout. I thought that it was her, him and Kirsten Dunst and Antonio Banderas came in a little later, and no. He vanishes. After they kill him, we run into him two more times. One when he comes back, to confront them after he's been dumped, and he's like, I lived off swamp creatures' blood, and he kind of devolves into what he belittles Louis over, right? Like he fed off of rats, and he's like, why would you eat those rats, and why did you eat that woman's poodles? Like, be who you are. And then he ends up the broken alone guy living in a freaking graveyard, living off of rats and swamp creatures earlier, and they set him on fire, and then the ending makes, I will say I'm not a big fan of the ending. I kind of find it a bit silly. I don't hate it. The more I think about it, I'm like all right with it, but the fact that like he pops up in the car just feels very forced. But I guess he's probably just following Louis around because he can't let him go, but he knows he's not strong enough to take him on. But I think what makes no sense to me is that he drinks from Christian Slater. I think his name's Daniel. Is that what it was? I don't remember. I didn't write it down. But I've watched like 3 movies since I watched this. Crazy enough, and I watched it today. That shows you how many fucking movies I watch. But he drinks from him, and then he's like, fine. He seems like he's completely back to normal. And when Louis comes across him in that crypt, or wherever the hell he is, he's in like some abandoned graveyard, something, I don't know. He goes in there and he looks like he's worse for wear. Of course, he still looks like this like downtrodden, freaking beaten vampire ghoul thing. And this has been 100+ years since he set him on fire. And then, this is like 1988, I think, and then we flash forward like 6 years, and this is when he attacks Christian Slater's character in the car, and he drinks from him, and then he's fine. He's like, "Oh, I feel like I'm getting my energy back," or whatever line he says, and I'm like, "You haven't fed on anyone in over 100 years? You've just been drinking animals? Is that out of depression, out of weakness? Like, how can you all of a sudden take down Christian Slater's character, who's a fully healthy male, like, who could fight back? And if you were too afraid to take on a human, I mean, you could have started with babies or kids or something if you really felt that weak and you needed humans to revive you. I don't understand why all of a sudden he's better after over 100 years of being this ghoul who's living off of fucking rats. Why did he have what? He's fine now? He just needed to drink from one human and he's fine? Or am I missing something here? I don't get this at all. That's why I don't like the ending. It's conveniently he's there, but I'll just say he's following Louis because he can't let him go and he feels too weak to approach him, or maybe he respects him too much, loves him too much to impede uh, or encroach on his privacy, and he's like, leave me alone. So he's trying to, but he's keeping close, and he sees this guy interviewing him, and then he's like watching from the outside, and as soon as he leaves him alone, he pops up in his car and he's like, all right, you want to be with him, how about you be with me instead? Like, I'll take you on as a replacement for him, and I'll give you the choice that I was never given, and all that. Okay, fine, I can explain that. But why all of a sudden when he bites this guy is he fine? I got nothing on that. I got nothing on that. Anybody? So, it's in the book, probably. Yeah? Or is this not how the book ends? This is probably like a totally different ending than the book. If you can hear kids screaming in the background, this is literally all I hear all day. All day. It's crazy. We have the worst parents ever. Ever in this neighborhood. And we get text alerts from our apartment complex all the time about kids being out in the neighborhood, whatever. They never, ever, ever stop yelling. They will literally just sit there. I've literally watched them sit outside and scream at the top of their lungs for no reason. They'll just be like, ah! They want attention. Of course, their parents aren't paying any attention to them, and they're bored, and they're looking for someone to come out and pay attention to them, so they just scream because they don't know what else to do. It's sad. It's insane. So if you can hear them, I don't know how you couldn't. It's fucking like this all the time. All the time. It really is. I'm not exaggerating. They're out there screaming all the time. Speaking of kids, the Claudia thing is really, really sad. Truly. I think that her character is the most tragic character, and one of the most tragic characters I've ever seen. Because, yes, I mean, this brings up that question of like age versus maturity, right? Like a physical body age versus an internal, uh, maturity. And it's like, which one is worse, right? Like having like if you take the Tom Hanks movie Big, people seem to be much more okay with seeing a fully grown adult, or that movie Jack with Robin Williams or whatever. Then when the moms are like hitting on him and they're like trying to get him home and to fuck him and whatever, like the kid who, like the person who's mentally 5 or 7 years old, right, but they're physically an adult, people seem to be much more okay with that visually, right, as opposed to like a 40-year-old, 50-year-old woman trapped in a 12-year-old body. Like if you were to see someone having, wanting to have sex with. Now, of course, Claudia wants to be a woman. She like sits there and fantasizes about it, and she looks at naked women and is like, she's like, by this point she's got to be in her 40s, and she doesn't get to have a lover because, of course, anyone who wants to be with her would be a pedophile, right? That's it. She looks like a child. She doesn't look even remotely like a woman. She looks very much like a child. And she has to remain this way forever. And she doesn't want to remain this way forever. She wants to be seen as an adult. And even though they know she's an adult, they know that she has matured. Just because her physical body doesn't age doesn't mean her mind doesn't age. So she is an adult alongside of them. But they buy her dolls, or at least Lestat does. Buys her dolls, and even Louis, who respects her and loves her and stays around within this relationship, stays in this abusive relationship with this monster who turned him into a monster. He sticks around for Claudia because he sees her as his daughter, right? He loses a kid, and so he gains a kid by doing this. And when he went to like drink off of her, he meant to just like ease her suffering. Is that what happened? Because her mom's dead, and he's like, here, let me help, and he bites on her like, I'm just gonna feed because it's good for me and it's good for you. It's kind of a win-win. I'll kill you. I'm gonna drain you. And then Lestat comes in and kind of like almost as a cruel prank, he turns her, because I think he means it's not a prank, I'm kidding, but he's like, oh, he takes pity on this girl, she must mean something to him. I'm going to turn her, and then I'm going to use her against him by making him want to stay around for her. But it's wild. And of course, neither is realistic, so it doesn't matter all that much. But it is a very interesting thought experiment of like, which one matters more. But I guess I guess it's both. But if you are somebody, because I remember seeing this episode of Law and Order SVU where this girl has this like disease where she doesn't age very much. Like she looks 12. And she's dating this guy who's her age, but she looks like a kid. And, Stabler and Benson are like going after them as like, and they're like attacking the guy, being like, you're a pedophile and this and that, and he only wants you because he's a pedophile. And she's like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I want to date, I want to be with someone. I'm not gonna fuck a 12-year-old because I look 12. I would be the pedophile, right? Like, she would be prosecuted in court. She's an adult, and so she wants to fuck someone her age. She wants to be in a relationship with someone her age, which of course she does. Why wouldn't she? She's an adult. But because she looks a certain way, every guy who wants to get with her, everybody's going to be like, you're a pedophile for being with this girl. But then people are always like, it's about what is inside that matters, right? And it is. Like, because while it is somewhat a physical thing, it is more about the mental thing, right? Like, not to get too weird and graphic about this or whatever, but a female's body starts having its period at like 11 or 12, right? So the body's straight up saying like, hey, I'm ready to have babies. The reason that we now as a society are like, no, she shouldn't be having sex at that age is because of the mental thing. Like physically she is supposed to or could be having children, right? Like that's, the body's like, I'm ready, let's make babies. But we as a society are like, no, 18. She's got to be 18 years old to start, age of consent and whatever. And that's all fine. But it is interesting because the question then becomes, I just find the Claudia thing very fascinating, where she is this child. She's an adult. She's going to be forever a kid. If anybody wants to be with her, he's a pedophile. But she's an adult. So he's not. But he'll always be seen that way. But if she was physically an adult and she had a 10-year-old trapped in her, it would be much easier to convince people like they can fuck because they physically look like the age that they're allowed to be. So is it the mental or is it the physical for people? It seems to be Of course, both, but in that scenario where it's one or the other, people would be much more comfortable with the adult having sex, even if it's a child inside. Because we've seen that movie. I've seen that movie many times. I've seen Big, and he does get fucked. For my memory, doesn't he fuck the girl? Or at least, yeah, doesn't he? And how old is he in that movie? But because he's Tom Hanks, because he looks like an adult, it's all good, right? But the other way around, you make the movie where the Freaky Friday happens, and the kid, the mom's in the kid's body, and she goes out and gets fucked. People would be flipping out over that. So it's an interesting dynamic, and I feel so sad for her in this movie. I really do. I'm just like, what a curse to live like this. And then she like tries to cut her hair off and it grows back immediately. So that of course then begs the question, do you just look how you look when you die forever? So wouldn't you want, but doesn't her hair, like when she gets killed, her hair like grows out like spiral curls and all this stuff, and she just looks like perfect and cute and everything. Like, so it does adjust you to some degree. But I would be like, hold on, I need to go to the barber. I need to get the haircut that I want to live with for the rest of my life. Right? Like, what am I the most comfortable with lengthwise? Because if it's like the Santa Claus and you shave the beard off and then it immediately grows back, and you cut off the hair and it immediately grows back to the same length every time, is it where you die, that's where it stays forever? Like, I gotta get that perfect beard length, I gotta shave, I gotta, do you have to shave anymore? I would assume it doesn't grow, because it seems like if you cut it off, it just grows right back, but it doesn't seem to grow any longer. I don't know how any of that works. So do you have to get, like, prepped? So if you got attacked in the middle of shaving, would you just have, like, a half beard for the rest of eternity? You're, like, attacked while you're getting a haircut. He's like cut off like one side of your hair and it's all chunky and whatever, and then you're just like, cool, I'm stuck with this haircut for the rest of my fucking life. Thank you so much for waiting. You could have waited 30 more minutes to let him finish this haircut, and then I could have lived with a decent haircut for the rest of my life. Prick. This is the kind of shit I'm thinking about when I'm watching these movies. I don't know what you guys are thinking about, but that's what I'm thinking about. Claudia wants to kill instantly. She's kind of immediately a monster. But she's also very sweet, so she's an interesting character all the way around. And then, let's see. The vampires on stage playing vampires and then killing people for real on the stage. This is monstrous, I think is what Louis calls it, and it is. It's just awful. Would you? I mean, I guess this is the question. Would you be okay with killing people to stay alive for eternity? And you have to eat like you have to eat now. I've always said that humans have to eat way too fucking much. We have to eat like 3 freaking times a day, snacks in between. Like, we eat way too much. I wish we only had to eat like once a week. There's way too much eating that has to happen for us to survive. Although Americans, we eat too fucking much. That's what's really happening is we've increased the amount of food that a human consumes. We shouldn't be eating as much as we do. So maybe we don't need as much food. But regardless, the answer for me is absolutely not. Now, if I got, afflicted with this curse, I could definitely find plenty of people that I would deem, unsavory and useless to society, and have no problem taking them out. There seems to be an endless supply of dickheads that I am totally fine with removing from this planet and making the world a better place while also, sustaining my immortality. So maybe I would agree to it. It would just depend. Like, do I have to kill like regular people, random people, like, or can I just pick and choose? Because if I can pick and choose, I'd be okay with it. He meets Armand, and Armand immediately has like an attraction to him. He wants to pass on his stuff. He tries to warn him, like, get Claudia out of here for her safety. Louis doesn't really listen, but he does to some degree. He tries to give her a protector because I think he is gonna leave, right? He's like, all right, I'll give you a mom. Essentially, it's more of like a, it is a protector because she's supposed to not be able to be physically, um, strong enough to take care of herself. So, but I feel like she's wants a stand-in so she can live vicariously through her. Like in my mind, I feel like she's gonna want her to be romantic, date, whatever, have sex, and for her to be able to watch so she can have some kind of vessel to live vicariously through. That's my read on it, but who knows? But he's gonna do that. He reluctantly changes this girl. As I said, she lasts like not even a night. She literally doesn't even last till morning. They freaking, well, she does last till morning. That's as long as she lasts. But she doesn't even last 12 hours. He changes her. They kidnap him. They throw him in this, like turret freaking dungeon thing, and with the top exposed, and just wait, and the light is just kind of like, encroaches and gets closer and closer until it burns them up and to ash. And then, Louis comes in, and Armand lets it happen. He totally lets it happen. And then he releases him, and they brick him into the wall, and they're like totally fine uh, letting him out the next day. They're going to leave him in there forever. But then Armand breaks him out, and then he's fine. Like, he's walking around there, and they're kind of like laughing, like, ha ha ha, she's dead. But I find it odd that they are okay with Armand just letting him out the next day. Like, was it just to scare him? Was that the? I don't know why they decided to lock him in there forever, brick it up, the whole nine, but then they let him out. Okay, sure, but then they just, the egos on these guys. They're like, oh well, we screwed this guy over, no big deal. He's definitely not going to retaliate against us tonight. Which of course he does. He waits till dawn, and then fucking burns them all, cuts them apart, whatever. Great scene, best scene of the movie. Cool stuff. But I just find that hilarious that they let him out, and then they're just like, I think they think he's gonna go away, or he's just gonna slink off as a coward. But oh man, does he not. They don't realize that this guy has, he's got nothing left to lose, and nor does he really care. He doesn't really want to be alive. But he sure as hell keeps himself alive, because I feel like he could easily kill himself, right? All he has to do is just grab a dead person and drink from him enough, and he should die. So if he really wanted to die, he could. So I think at the core of this, the reality of the situation is that, as much as he talks about the fact he doesn't want to be around and whatnot, and he's cursed, and how could Lestat do this to him, and blah, 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 go sit out in the fucking sun. If you really don't want to be around, if you are cursed, on day one, he could have fucking sat out there and let the sun burn him to cinder. So spare me. Spare me. You wanted to die just the day before. You were literally looking for people to kill you. Then Lestat comes around, makes you immortal, which you for some reason agree to, even though you just wanted to die. Now you're like, let me instead want to live forever, which no human gets to do. And then when you find out you're a monster, you're pissed off, and you reject what you have to do to survive, and you're like, this is a curse. And even so much, the whole point of the movie in the end is when Christian Slater's like, I want you to turn me, and he's like, have you not been listening to anything I'm saying? This is a curse. And of course humans, in our stupidity, can never hear anything but what we want to hear. We have confirmation bias. We can be told things, but you just shut off at a certain point. You hear immortality, and then your brain just goes, whoop. I don't hear anything. Like, all this other bad stuff, immortality. I want immortality. And I understand. I don't want to die either. I have no interest in ever dying. So, I get the appeal of it. But, that being said, he really isn't paying attention. And he's super pissed off at him for not understanding the whole point of the story, which is, I'm cursed. You don't want this life. But then, as I said, it's not that they're indestructible. See, if Anne Rice wrote them in a way where they can't die, and what he does is he takes their coffins and he, like, you know, pushes them into some quarry or something and then fucking covers them with dirt, and they're never found again, and they're just sitting in their coffins screaming because they can't be killed. That would be cool, and that would be like, fuck you, I can't die. Why did you do this to me? I am immortal. But we find out that is not even remotely true. They are not unkillable. He kills a lot of them, and we watch his fucking beloved die by burning in the sun. Any one of them can kill themselves at any point. So spare me. Spare me this whole notion that you're trying to educate this writer. He's a total fucking hypocrite. He's like, hey, I want to tell you this story about how horrible it is to be a vampire. Don't be a vampire. And you know, you don't want this curse. Then fucking kill yourself. Like, I don't know what to tell you. You can check out at any time. At any time. If you really think you're a monster. And he does. He ends up going in because he says he, like, now wanders and feeds on people. He's killing people. He is a monster now. He does give in to it. He does die. He does kill people. I think after Claudia's death, he's kind of just like, he becomes very monstrous. But he's with Claudia for, she's like with him for 30 plus years. But he's around for like 100 fucking years at that point. He could easily, after that, be like, I'm done. I'm out. And even before that. So, I don't know. It's easier said than done, but he literally in the opening of this movie is trying to get killed. He is suicidal. He can't do it himself though. That is noteworthy. So I guess it is possible that he's just a coward in that way. Coward, if that's what you want to call it. Just because you don't kill yourself and you're depressed, I'm not calling you a coward. What I'm saying is trying to go get someone else to do it for you. I guess, I don't know, cowardly is the only word I can come up with. So yeah, he wants to die. He can't do it himself. He's trying to get shot in the heart. He's cheating at cards, or he isn't. He's waiting for these moments to have people pull guns on him. He's like, shoot me in the heart, shoot me in the heart. And then 2 seconds later, he's like, make me immortal. And then 2 seconds later, he's like, I don't want to be immortal, but I'll live for another 300 years. It just doesn't add up to me. It just doesn't add up to me. I think that this makes no sense, but whatever. And then, yeah, I mean, that's it. I assume that Christian Slater's character, he already said he wants to be a vampire, so this should be an easy choice. When he's like, I'm going to give you the choice, it's like, he already made that choice. He tried to get him to change him in the fucking hotel room or apartment or wherever it was. So easy peasy. He's going to be like, yeah, turn me. I already made that decision. So are they going to be partners? Does he show up? Is that character? I would assume he's in the book. It's Interview with the Vampire. Pretty self-explanatory as far as the title goes. Yeah, is he his partner in the Vampire Lestat? Isn't that the second book? And Queen of the Damned is the third, I think. I don't know any fucking thing about these books. But that book that book got skipped over. Is it being adapted in that TV series? And I know that they combined elements from Queen of the Damned and the Vampire Lestat into that movie. I did tiny, like 2 seconds of research before I pressed record, like I always do. When I'm reviewing like 3 films a day, I can only deep dive so much into the trivia and whatnot. Some people spend a week or 2 or a month freaking on researching their videos. This guy I'm talking to right now, Johnny Recaps, he takes a full week. It takes him like 6 to 8 days to do one video, which is just dedication I don't have. I just want to talk about movies. I just want to talk about tons and tons of films. And if I was to sit down and write scripts and watch movies 3 or 4 times and have to record and clip and edit and, no way. That would take all the fun out of it for me. That's just not what I ever want to do on this channel. Just not my style. I just want to gab. I just want to sit here and yap. And hopefully someone wants to listen. So, And the fact that this is a patron request and someone's paying me to do this and has paid me now for many, many reviews, they clearly want to. And whoever's still here, I guess you wanted to as well. So thank you for letting me do what I want to do, which is just to sit here and bullshit and talk about the craziest, weirdest fucking things that come to the top of my head. Half of the time, I never even thought of talking about that until I sat down, and then it just kind of organically flowed out of me. Very weird. That's just how my brain works, I guess. So that's that. The interview with the vampire. Next up, for their request, as I had said, is Byzantium. Byzantium? I need to look at the title again. I think that's what it's called. I seen that one time. I seen it. Now, I've seen that movie one other time when it came out. I remember it being pretty boring. As far as this movie goes, I don't love it. This is kind of like the epitome of that, like, you know, what I talk about as like vampires were horror for women, where it's like sexy men seducing each other and talking very softly in frilly clothes and, you know, kind of being the poster child for like every alt girl's wet dream, or gay man in this instance. But I think this was more geared towards the ladies, even though it is homoerotic. I think that, you know, you can appeal to both, but I still think this is supposed to be like sexy for women. So that's that. Anyway, yeah, this was good. This is better than I expected it to be. I thought I was going to be more bored, and I was into it. Everybody's good. I love Tom Cruise. I love Brad Pitt in general. I've always been big fans of both of theirs, and this is like the most sexiest film per square inch for the time that it came out with all of these names. But yeah, it was a fun watch, and one I probably should have watched with my wife, who just walked through the door. Hello, my love. So, anyways, that's that. I'll see you in the comments. Adios.